Hi, in this video we'll learn how to determine the x-intercept and y-intercept of a quadratic function. So I have the quadratic function here, which is f of x is equal to x squared minus 8x plus 12, and we'll find the x and y-intercept of this function. So let's talk about x and y-intercept first. What are those? So x-intercept is when the parabola is crossing the x-axis. So x-intercepts are nothing but it's a point where the parabola is crossing the x-axis. So here the parabola is crossing the x-axis at these 2 points. Let's label this as x and this as y. So here the parabola is crossing the x-axis at these 2 points. That means these are the x-intercept. What you notice here that you have got, when you have to write the x-coordinate of this, you have some value for the x-coordinate, but the y-coordinate is 0 here. The same thing here. You have got some value for the x-coordinate, but the y-coordinate is 0 here. That means when you have to find the x-intercepts, so x-intercept, when you have to find the x-intercept, you can just go ahead and plug in y equals 0 in your function, right? Because when y equals 0, you get your x-intercepts. So that means if you have to find the x-intercept, you can just plug in y equals 0 in your original function. Now let's talk about the y-intercept. Y-intercept. So y-intercept is where the parabola is crossing the y-axis, and here the parabola is crossing the y-axis at this point. What you notice at this point, that your x-coordinate is 0, but you have got some value for the y-coordinate. That means if you have to find the y-intercept at that point, x-coordinate is 0. That means x-coordinate will be 0. So if you have to find the y-intercept, you remember that you have to plug in x equals 0 in your original function. If you have to find the x-intercept, you have to plug in y equals 0 in your original function. Now let's find out the y-intercept first. So we're going to plug in x equals 0 into original function. So let's replace f of x with y here, because f of x is nothing but a function of x here. So I'm replacing f of x with y. So y is equal to x squared minus 8x plus 12. Now when you plug in x equals 0 into this function, this is y equals, when you plug in x equal, replace x with 0. So this is going to be 0. X squared is 0 squared, which is 0, minus 8 times x. 8 times 0 is going to be 0 again. So this is going to be 0, and then you're only left with 12 here. So that means when x is equal to 0, y is equal to 12. And you write your coordinates like this, x comma y, and then you put that inside the parentheses. So I have x is 0, and my y is 12. That means my y-intercept is 12. So I have a point here, 0, comma 12. That means my y-intercept is 12 when x is 0. Now let's find the x-intercept here. So when finding the x-intercept, you just plug in y equals 0 in your original function. So we again do the same thing. I have here this is my original function because I've replaced f of x with y. So y is equal to x squared minus 8x plus 12. We're going to plug in y equals 0. So this is going to be 0 is equal to x squared minus 8x plus 12. Now this is a quadratic equation which is factorable. I have the coefficient of x squared is 1 here. So 1 times 12 is going to be 12. We need to factor this equation. So think about two numbers which when multiplied should give you positive 12, because 1 times 12 is going to be 12. Remember that when you factor the equation, you multiply a with c, and a is to 1 here and c is 12. So 1 times 12 is going to be 12. So remember that you need to think of two numbers or two factors which when multiplied should give you positive 12, but when added should give you negative 8. And I know that those factors are negative 6 and negative 2. All right, this is negative 6 and negative 2. Because remember that when you multiply two negative numbers, you get positive results. So 6 times 2 is going to be 12. And then 6 and 2, when you add them, you get 8. But since this is negative 8, we know that when we add two negative numbers, we always get the negative result. So we're adding two negative numbers, get the negative result. So the factors are negative 6 and negative 2. And this is equal to 0 here. Now, I can separate these two equations. X minus 6 is equal to 0, and x minus 2 is also equal to 0. That means if I have to find the value of x, I can just go ahead and eliminate 6 from the left-hand side. So adding 6 on both sides. 6 and 6 will cancel out each other. X is equal to 0 plus 6 is going to be 6. And here doing the same thing, since I want x by itself, I can add the equation by 2 on both sides. Negative 2 and positive 2 will cancel out. X is equal to 0 plus 2 is going to be 2. So the x-intercepts are 6 and 0, and you got the two x-intercepts, 6 and 2. Now, how do you write this in ordered pair? How do you write in this ordered pair form? So these are the x-intercept. That means these are the x coordinates. But remember that when you got some value for x, then y was 0, right? So y was 0 here. So your points are 6, 0 and 2, 0, and these are the x-intercepts of the quadratic equation. So the x-intercepts are 6 and 2, and the y-intercept is 12. That's how you determine the x and y-intercept of a quadratic function. That's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next video.